Hello, everybody. I'm operating on 3 hours of sleep for this entire week because I just came from NADP, and it was fantastic to see a different side, right? So the people that you deal on the back end, and then getting to come here and talk to you who are on the front end, right? Who are using it. So we are privileged to sit in the middle to hear both sides of the stories and try to make life simpler for you guys and life simpler for them, okay? Not an easy job, let me just tell you that. So a brief introduction about me. I belong to Optum's Dental Innovation Group, right? So we primarily focus, and anybody who says innovation today, they definitely mention that, AI has to be a part of it, right? So AI is innovation, quote unquote, integrated with that. I've been working with Optum for the last 20 years, dealt with multiple versions of innovation in technology and products, if I may put it that way, right? So there was a time when cloud was the next buzz thing, so we moved everything to the cloud. There is a time that, we're like, let's do multitude of things with data because of the amount of data that we have. And this journey has been fantastic. And this next new phase, especially in the last 3 years that we have been seeing, with the advent of AI and the multitude of opportunities that it is presenting in the right way. It has challenges. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but the multitude of opportunities it is presenting, I don't think we could say that was possible 3 years back, right? So there has been, and I would just say the previous presentation before to me, I couldn't agree more to whatever was presented there. It is absolutely a fact. The problems are absolutely, all the problems are there. But if we make the right choices and the right decisions, the benefits of using it and using it right are there. So let's get into this, right? This is a huge problem statement, and I don't have the allocated time of an hour to go into every step of RCM and what we can do, right? So what I'm going to focus is on a very small portion of RCM, and as my previous speaker was mentioning, focus on the high-value problem, right? This is a problem. This is the biggest problem that we hear from the provider community, and this is the biggest pain point that we hear from the payers, where we say, providers are always complaining about this, right? They're always complaining, we need to have innovation in this particular space. So we all know revenue cycle is complex, right? It is truly complex. It is frustrating, right? Then I've personally listened to some of the calls that we get from the providers, and the people will be like, why is my claim not getting approved? Why it was denied? And then on the back end, we have to sit and say, why did you reject it, right? Oh, we rejected it for this. Like, your CARC doesn't say that. You have rejected, but that CARC code that you have sent in the description, that person cannot process it, right? So there is really a major challenge with that entire process, right? Now, one of the key things that we are trying to achieve with AI, at least Optum is an AI-first company. That's our goal. We have to be an AI-first company. We want to bring in the best of AI. So when we were talking about AI EO, yes, I agree to that, because there are multiple entities in the world today who are focused on AI, but we have to choose the best AI, the best model, the best possible automation to make it achievable. So I'll just focus on transparency today, because that's the biggest thing that we are seeing, and that's the biggest challenge that we are hearing. So today, very simple problem, right? The biggest problem that I go to and I do that with our DSO partners, I go to their offices to just try and understand, hey, what is the problem statement that you face, right? If there is one thing for 2025 that I can fix for you, what would be that one thing that you want me to fix for you? The biggest thing that they say is, I cannot make sense of eligibility. I really cannot make sense of that eligibility response that we get from the payers. And funny part, I was talking to one of our partners, a big DSO. This gentleman is in the business for more than 50 years, longer than I am alive on Earth. So he said, oh, you know what? 50 years back, we had NDDIC 50. I'm like, I hear NDDIC 56. So no. In the last 40 years, we have added 6. And I was like, what? And he said, yes, you do not know that. So the eligibility response that we get back, and we think this is the minimum benchmark of getting that response, and it meets what an office person can read and say what the patient would be covered for it. That's the minimum is 56, and that's the minimum. That's not the full suite of the responses that are possible. And that has expanded by 6 in the last 40 years, right? So it is a pain. It is a pain. So when we go and talk, like I have a bunch of behavioral science experts who are like, okay, who literally, they are the brains behind the AI. So they go in and say, okay, you did not get this information. So what did you do? Oh, I made a call because I know this is so-and-so pair. I know Susie in that particular office. She's going to give me that information. Okay, did Susie give you that information? She told she can give me. She gave me what she could, and then she sent me something in a fax. Great, what did you do? I have a spreadsheet that's set back in my back pocket. I'm going to take all of this information. I'll marry all of this. Then I'll tell Pratibha how much you are going to pay for this. I'm like, okay, great, fantastic. Tell me how much I'm going to pay. You're going to pay $300 for that crown procedure. Oh, by the way, I can read a UB. It was not $300. I owed $150. So that was the spreadsheet that she was using. But does it need to be that hard? Does it really need to be that hard? It shouldn't be. It should really not be, especially in this day and age where we have so much technology available. The biggest thing, I think, for me, from AI perspective, right, and AI has been in this industry for a long time, right? We have so many partners in this space who are dealing with multiple, providers. They're dealing with multiple offerings on AI. But I think the biggest advancement that has happened in the last 1 year or two has been majorly on the multimodality AI, right? That was something that was not available even 3 years back. And what I mean with that is, now what I can do is I can take our conversation, right? It is a voice recording, take that through AI. I can take somebody's image, right? The X-ray treatment or the X-rays that have been taken for a treatment plan that has been scheduled for a day. I can take that information. I can take the claim, the to-be claim, and then marry all of this information and project what that cost would be, right? Because on the back end, I know from the payer what would be covered. And we know that we have all the necessary information. This, according to me, and I'm a techie at heart, right? So I am always evolving in technology. I would, even for my personal things, I would be like, what did ChatGPT say me for this? What did Gemini say me for this? What did Grok 4 say me for this? Is the response changing when I'm going from Grok 4 to Grok 5, right? So there are things that I keep doing even in my personal time. So all of that is, so this basic change that has happened in the last 1.5 years is highly fantastic. So when we talk to the patients and when we talk to the provider offices, the biggest thing that they come back with is like, yeah, in some cases, you were charged $150. I'm lazy. I'll never go back to them and ask for that $150 refund, right? But they have lost my trust. I'll never go back to that office as well, right? So they lose patients. In some cases, some patients would say, I'm not going to pay $300. In the EOB, I have seen this. You misquoted. So there is a write-off because they'll not even pay that $150. And there is really a negative patient experience because if I'm standing here in front of so many people and telling that was my experience, it is a negative experience that just sits. It doesn't matter that I had so many positive experiences with that dentist office. The one thing I remember was I was charged $150 more. So this is a problem. So as I mentioned, last 3 days talking to the payers communities, right? And coming here and talking to you guys. Since we are in the middle, it allows us, it gives that unique perspective of what we can do to, alleviate some of these problem statements. So a typical business process or a claim process, how it looks like is there is always a pre-treatment day, right, or a pre-treatment step of that particular process. And then there is a patient in-office visit, right? So earlier, a typical day would look like there would be a call to to a payer, an eligibility request. They'll get that NDDIC 56, which has expanded by 6 in the last 40 years, and then making a call to Susie, making my X-ray spreadsheet and my Excel spreadsheet, doing all my calculation, we get a number, right? That is a typical day. But it's not that hard, honestly. With AI, it's really not that hard. Using APIs and AI in the right places, we can actually provide real-time feedback. And that's what Optum Real, our newest offering, is bringing to the market. So once we determine what the plan coverage is by every CDT code, we can, through AI, predict if that is the right CDT code, right? So there is a difference between a 4341 and a 4342. I know it doesn't, in some cases it really, and honestly, it should not mean anything to the dentist, right? It absolutely means a lot to the person who is coding that particular claim, but there is a difference. If you submit 4342 versus 4341, or a D2740 versus a D2750, there is a high probability that claim would get denied, right? Because it was not the right claim. How can we change it? We can absolutely make changes to this with coding intelligence, right? That's the biggest module that we are bringing in at this point. Because we know that, Pratibha doesn't have patience. She is going to put D2740, right? That has been her behavioral pattern. So why don't we nudge her and just say, hey, we know you do that, okay? Can you check? Because the information that you have put here, it's actually a D2740. Right? Instead of a D2740, it's a D2750. Do you want to have a relook at this? More often than that, not. They would want to make that correction because it's a change that allows them not to recode that entire claim again, not to follow up with the payer, not to follow up with middle people like us, right? And get paid then and there. With this newer offering, one of the key things that we're also bringing in is you do not need to wait for a week, right? Currently, it operates on a week because we are not hitting the, believe it or not, on the payer boundaries because, as I mentioned, we sit in the middle. We know what's happening there. So on the payer boundaries, they are disparate technology systems. That's the biggest problem. Their system A is not talking to system B. That's the problem. And if they're talking, they have archaic processes who are managing that data transfer between those two systems. So we know that that can be, if we are hitting the right service, we will get the right information. So with this offering, that's the biggest change that we're doing. We're not hitting their disjointed eligibility information, but the system which is going to make a determination on your claim, if that claim was serviced, which is a huge change from the way the industry works. And I'll leave with just two words to that. Any offering that we can do, as I mentioned, I'm a techie, right? Any offering which goes to eligibility and then provides content over it, it's derived, which we think that, oh, it will behave this way because I have markers of that data that it will work this way. But if you're going to the direct source, you are getting the information that it would generate if it was adjudicated that day. So those are going to be the key things. And I spoke about the multimodality because of the multitude of information that we have on across these sources. So that's a big information and a big change that is coming up in this particular offering. Then the provider shares, like Mr. Cox, my dentist, he'll say, Pratibha, this is what you're going to be paying. I'm like, you're sure, Mr. Cox? Yes, I'm very sure this is what I'm going to pay. I'm like, okay, perfect. He does whatever processes. I'm terrified of dentists. I am so terrified of dentists. I be the strongest person ever when I take my son. It's all right. It's okay. You can do it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I wouldn't go. So, but, it takes, the payment side aside, there is a big leap of faith that I need to have on my dentist to sit in that chair. So I sat on the chair, right? So we sit, there is a care that is performed. And after that, the biggest thing right now that has happened is now it's a checkbox. right? From the provider's office, it's just a checkbox, because now they promote that inquiry that has happened in the pre-step to a claim, because everything has been already validated, right? Everything has been validated. And all of this, for my DSO partners, one of the key things that that everybody talks to me when we talk about some of these newer capabilities is, great, but will it work with my EagleSoft software? Because I use EagleSoft, I'm not changing it. I use Curves, I'm using Denticon, I'm using Dentrix, I'm not going to change that. Yes, absolutely, right? Absolutely. We absolutely believe that this is the age, and this is the age of having APIs, right? We need to be able to talk to APIs. If there are standards which cannot be made by the industry, the small company that we are, we have that much sway that we can make those, we can propose what the change is, work with the right partners, and make that as a standard. And I absolutely think that we are making the right steps in that direction. Now coming to AI as such, right? With all of this information, now if we look at it, yes, Dr. Cox, all he did was he spent 5 minutes with me or whatever for that procedure. But the office person, instead of spending 40, 45 minutes on talking to a payer, talking and working on that spreadsheet and getting that information through their practice management software, they have that 45 minutes available. To talk to whom? To talk to me. I love to chat, by the way. When I go there, I'd hate to wait and sit for the doctor. I love to chat with them. How was your day? Did you go on a vacation? And all of that. I would love to do that, right? That lets me, I may not go back for Dr. Cox, but I may go for the office person who is there because, I love her, right? So it allows for an improved patient experience, because now the office admin's time is available to be actually present for the patient versus doing all these ancillary stuff. One of the key things here, we did talk about interoperability, because we want to be able to have that information go back and forth. That is key, right? And we need integration between the payer systems, multiple payer systems in some cases. Then within the provider offices, we have that right back mechanism with which we take that information and present it in their software, which reduces their training cycle, because training offices is also a big thing, right? So we absolutely help with that. The biggest thing that we are also bringing with this is preventing denials. Nobody likes denials, right? If we talk to, we may think about payers, hey, they didn't accept my claim, they didn't approve my claim and all of that. But one of the key metrics even they try to achieve is, why is my denial rate so high, right? And most of the times, denials for any other scenario is a different case, but denials due to lack of information, which is something that can be absolutely captured if we move all this information left. And when we say left, we always consider that the provider is on the left, the payer is on the right. That's how we assume this entire thing. If we get all that intelligence to the provider, to that office admin, and we provide it in a way that they can step through it without knowing the intricacies of a claim or of an ERA or of an eligibility, we have done something right? So, and that is doable. So with this new offering, which is highly AI powered, what we absolutely do is the multimodality information, take that process, predict the CDT codes that predict and project the CDT codes that you should select, right? Because that's the thing. Make sure that you have the payer rules to manage, adhere to the payer rules, and then provide this information to, to enable, the office admin to spend more time with me. So I leave this group with a few things, right, which is very important. It's one thing is payers also have that intent to help out. There are two things that they hate. One is the customer calls that they have to support because they did not get the information. They want to make it as easy as possible. They have preferred connections that they want people to use because they have more information available through that, right? So so that is possible through enabling interoperability. There are multiple forums which are working a lot to make that this works in the way it should. I did say that Optum, the small company, is absolutely doing its own step. We are involved with multiple groups. There is a new group, Ohio, that if you have not heard, please be a part of it. There is a big endeavor to make sure that there is interoperability in this space, right? Gain patient consent. Believe it or not, the BAA that you're signing and all of that, it is so important. But at the end of the day, the data doesn't belong to the provider. The data doesn't belong to the payer. The data only belongs to the patient. So gain patient consent. It's very important. Be partnered with solutions like this, which help you gaining price transparency, right? Make that data available to them. And always, I can't agree more to what the previous speaker was mentioning about with regards to responsibly use AI. AI doesn't need to be used everywhere, but it absolutely should be used where it makes sense and responsibly. The people aspect of it is very, very important.